now. All right, we live, people. We live. Black Eyes TV in the house once again, bringing you that live information. Today we got another UK USA link up show. We're introducing the UK family to our brother Craig Samuels this evening, joining us to talk a bit about the Black community, some of his observations and what he does, and some of the aspects that he deals with. So without further ado, let's go over to my brother. Introduce yourself to the people, brother, and yeah, talk about what you do.
Okay, well, good afternoon. It's the afternoon here. Good evening to you guys there. My name is Craig Samuels. I am a native of Flint, Michigan. So I'm a public speaker, community consultant, if you will. I am also a ghostwriter for those who can't write and have content they would like to put out. Then that's what I do behind the scenes. I am also an adept for the Shock Metaphysics Kemetic Wisdom School. So I'm one of the many great adepts there. And I'm a brother who likes to be involved and trying to make a difference. You know, trying to make my life count, my purpose count for something, and interact with those who are heading in the same direction. So that's pretty much, you know, a brief introduction as to who I am and what I do.
Now I know you've written several books. Let's speak about those. What are the subjects of the books? What are we dealing with here when we come to the books that you've authored so far?
Yeah, well, the books, I've written one, and I've ghost written another, and I'm working on my second edition for the one that I have already written. But the title for my first book is called My Mother's Guilt, My Father's Sin, The Death of Innocence. And what that is a description of the trauma that takes place in the household, and that trauma that leads to dysfunctional behavior throughout one's life, from childhood to teens to young adulthood on into adulthood. If there isn't a positive intervention, then that dysfunction will exist throughout the lifetime of said individual. So I wrote about that to not only share my story, but to also shed some light on some solutions and to encourage brothers and sisters who share the same situation, who have gone through some of the same things that I have gone through. So it's a book of encouragement, if you will.
No, I hear that. I mean, as we know, the Black family's been under attack non-stop as the main power base of the Black nation. So we definitely understand that. How did you come into contact with the Shock Metaphysics crew, with Philip Matthews, Brother Carver? You know, our listeners are used to now seeing Brother Carver come on. He's come on a few times. He's set to come on next week again and speak with us. Brother Patar Seeker has also enlightened us to some of his wisdom on the time and calendar. So how did you get involved with them, and how do your skills meld with the things that they talk about and the things that they deal with?
Well, I accidentally came across Brother Philippe on YouTube. I was looking, I do a lot of research, and of course, part of my research is listening to the content of others to get references and things. And well, with that being said, I ran across Philippe and I just clicked on one of his shows, which happened to be a show with Professor Kaba. Well, I was already aware of who Professor Kaba is. When I listened to that brother's show, and I loved the content, I loved what he was doing. It spoke volumes to me. And so I threw caution to the wind and just took a chance on reaching out to him. He responded. We talked some more. You know, we developed a rapport, and pretty soon I got an invite to be on the show. As far as my skills, well, I'm a healer, which is part of my mentoring expertise. And I say expertise because that's what I've been doing for some time. So as a mentor and as one who looks into the psychology of a people, to point out the pathologies, to point out what what may be ailing them emotionally, what could be the psychological holdup. That's what I do. And so, according to Philippe, it was a unique set of skills that he thought would be feasible and necessary to bring aboard for the Shock Metaphysics School. So here I am now as one of the many adepts.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, when you wrote the books that you talked about, the self-repair books, the trauma, how long ago was that? Is that a recent book that you've written, or is that your first work?
The book that I released, my first book I released in August of 2017. Okay. And it did better than I thought it was going to do, based on the genre that it was reaching out to. Most books right now today, they're not situated on family life. No one's really going in on talking about what the causes and effects of trauma and dysfunction, and how it affects us in and throughout our lives. You have books, and there's nothing wrong with the other books, but I think in order for us to come to a mutual understanding, to get to a place where we can move forward as a collective, healthy collective group, there has to be a healing. And you can't heal putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. You can't. If I cut you with a straight razor, that says automatically right there that you're going to need some surgery. You're going to need some dire medical attention right away. But with us, because we're so, and I say us, I'm talking about Black people, some of us are so image-minded, image conscious, that we don't want to talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room. We'd rather sweep those issues under the rug and act like they don't exist. Now, mind you, all the while, that gorilla is putting on weight. The issues are getting heavier and heavier. They're getting more serious and serious, but because we're too preoccupied with worrying about what our neighbors are going to say, think, and feel, that we'll ignore the house that's burning down. We'll ignore that small fire and only pay attention to it when it's an inferno. That's part of the issue with the Black community, since we're talking about that, and it starts at home. Everything begins under the roof. So what I show you as a parent, what I show a child as a parent, well, that child is a reflection of my behavior. That child is a reflection of my integrity, if I have any, of my moral compass, if it's one present. So he or she is going to mimic the things I say and do outside the home. Unfortunately, you have there's a phrase that I coined called domestic socialization. And what that entails, I mean, it's nothing different than being socially engineered. Domestic socialization is happening inside the house. It's what I call being trained to embrace your trauma. What goes on in this house stays in this house. So if something is hurting me, brother, or if something's hurting you, brother Rich, and I mean, you're really hurt and you need some attention, but you've been trained to keep it to yourself, that it goes no farther than where it's happening. What goes on in this house stays in this house. So if I'm 10 or 11 and somebody's doing me harm, and fear has been instilled in me to keep the harm that has been done to me to myself, then what's going to happen over an extended period of time is the trauma is going to worsen, and of course the dysfunctional behavior shows up in school, shows up in relationships, shows up in whatever I do. And we began to have a domino effect of what I call a domino effect of failed relationship after failed relationship. Now now what I just explained, a lot of that is in my book.
No, I understand that. And again, I think the greatest misnomer when we talk about our children a lot of the time is we talk about them like they're standalone project, like how
Right.
whatever flaws they have, they seem to have been born with them, rather than as you're saying, they are a direct reflection of what we're showing them and what we're giving them. Yeah, from the DNA all the way up to behavioral traits, learned behavior, as you're saying. Um, and I don't think people understand just how core the family is to the Black community. I mean, we're always talking about nation building, we're always talking about these aspects of economic strife and these things, but it all starts with that value system that we place on the family. Um, so I'm sure you agree, but speak on that
Yes.
point, that how
Yes.
important it really is.
Absolutely. Um, Per the topic of this conversation with going on in the Black community, the Black community itself doesn't exist. There is no community. There's no Black community. A community is made up of families, and families who uphold one another. It's similar to the African village of antiquity. If
Mm.
I'm your brother, I'm not just the brother of this household, I'm a brother to the household across the street from me too, next door to me, around the corner from me. I'm not just a father in my household, I'm a father who will lend his services to my neighbors across the street from me, around the corner from me. So in a community, we don't have that. We have in our, what looks like a community, we have other people from other ethnic groups who are running businesses and taking our dollars in what's supposed to be our community, which is just really a place that we call a neighborhood, which is more like a hood because we're not very neighborly with each other. Now, I'm not going to bite my tongue and sit here and perpetrate like everything is hunky-dory because we got a few millionaires on the Richter scale, but none of them, aside from those who have made their presence felt with their money and not just with their talk, like most recently LeBron James, I applaud that brother. But aside from that, there's no one doing anything in the Black community. We have a whole lot of pimps calling themselves pastors. We have a whole lot of parasites and vampires who are sucking the blood out of the community. We have a whole lot of politicians who are screwing the taxpayers. And now I'm not just going to put it all on them. I'm going to put some of the weight and accountability on the people themselves, because if you sit back and you're preoccupied with what you think is significant that's going on in your life, like your house, your car, your money, your clothes, your clubbing, your turning up and things of that nature, well, then you have those who are a contradiction to your best interest coming into your community, running for office and winning. And when they get those seats, guess what they do? They now call the shots. And they have the authority to call those shots that governs your livelihood for the next 4 years. And sometimes, it's not sometimes, it's too prevalent among us. We don't wake up until, well, I mentioned fire before. Sometimes we don't wake up until the tsunami is already upon us. Then we want to try to fight off something that has grown too strong for us to fight. So that's an issue for me, and it has been an issue for me, because we talk about things that are of an insignificant nature. Now, this is just my perspective, and I'm not the only one who feels this way. And those who are listening would say, well, damn, this brother act like he hates his people. No, I don't. I love my people. I love you enough to stand flat-footed and tell you the truth, unfiltered, about our present condition. And if we don't find some type of common ground and stop tearing each other down and stop trying to find ways to enter into competition and find ways where we can sit at the table and have a conversation, especially among men, until we do that, we're going to be easy pickings for those who are already picking us off. And then what happens with our sons and daughters? We're ready to hold hands and sing Kumbaya and pray. and we'll kill each other. We won't stand up to the people that are killing us. So how are we supposed to move ahead when we won't address the things that are right in our face, brother?
Most definitely, brother. I'm hearing you. Definitely. And I wanted to take a moment to say big up to the chat room, big up to the sisters that are joining us this evening, voicing their opinion. And again, you said something interesting about competition. We find when before the kids even come, we seem to have this problem when we are in relationships that we seem to be in a competition with our partners. You know, there seems to be a race to something, I don't know what, that seems to always be happening whenever we're trying to select a mate. Speak to that point where, you know, when you see this male and female dynamic in today's society, everyone's trying to get one up on each other, which again doesn't lead to a harmonious partnership. So as you said, when by the time the kids come, it's complete drama. Again, it's a competition, it's a pull-in match between who's going to raise the children, how they're going to be raised. This is what I want, this is what you want. So speak to that point, you know, in the way we select partners in the community. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I was just having that conversation yesterday, and those who know me know I have a real problem with the battle of the sexes nonsense. And I think a lot of it has to do with certain principles and concepts that are no longer present or no longer being taught. Somewhere along the way, we lost the roadmap. We become paralyzed from lack of a map that speaks to our camaraderie. As a matter of fact, I'll keep this very simple. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen were teammates. Regardless of their disagreements off the court, they kept in front of them what was really important, which is when they got on the court, everything else ceased to exist. So we're talking about going after what's really important. What? Seizing that ring. Now, so let's take that same analogy and apply it to the man and the woman. If you love me and we're in this together and you're my teammate, then I should not be trying to find ways to gain an advantage over you. Because what I do now is I hinder our forward movement. I hinder our progress. And I also show you at the same time that I'm not really on your team. Why is that happening? Selfishness, immaturity, jealousy. Yes, we can be jealous of one another, or maybe the man is making more money, or maybe the woman is making more money. Money is one of the big factors as well. Whatever the case, we don't value one another. So you're talking about self-worth. You're talking about self-value. If I value me and I have self-respect and I have dignity about myself and I have standards as a Black man, then the Black woman I choose is going to have the same thing. And we're going to have an understanding from the beginning. How do we arrive to the understanding? Communication. Communication is the key to everything. So there's a lack of communication. There's a lack of selflessness. There's a lack of the understanding of the teammate concept. And there's a lack of real education that speaks to what needs to be done to build, enter into, build and maintain healthy relationships.
I'm with you, bro. Totally. Marriage. Today's modern day relationships, they don't seem to really consist of it. I don't really seem to deal with it. You know, today's society has kind of made a mockery of that kind of coupling because it seems to come with a lot more disadvantages, it seems, than advantages nowadays. It's easy to get out of, you know, it's used for monetary gain. But what's your opinion on marriage and how important is it for the Black community?
Well, there is a difference between getting married and building a marriage. We have a lot of people, many people, too many, who just want the show. They want the bells and whistles. They want the nice, lavish wedding dresses. They want the 3 and 4 carat rings. You know, they want everything that you can see on the surface. They want the ceremony, but the substance is missing. Yeah. So that's what they want. And Hollywood is a prime example of when you get tired, just move on. People are changing marriages like they change socks for a number of trivial reasons. People can't seem to stay married. I speak to that immaturity, selfishness again, and of course, monetary gain. Some people enter into marriage simply for what they can get out of it, not for what they can bring into it. So if you're not going to, if marriage is not sacred to you, I'm married and my wife is my best friend. And that's not just a cliche. That's my best friend. I'm too old to contradict what I stand for. And it means something to me. Family means something to me. So to answer your question, I hope I'm answering your question. There's no one values anything again. We got these, again, value. There are no values. People are too damn selfish today to value anything. Now, that doesn't apply to everyone, just to whom it applies to. It's about me. I got mine, you get yours. Or I'm mad at you, so that's a reason for me to go cheat. We don't talk anymore. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine if I can get it. What else does speaks to that? Agitation propagation, or agitation propaganda. The short term for it is called agitprop. Propaganda, you already know, it's the dissemination of ideas. Propaganda acts on the mind where agitation acts on the emotion. So we're emotional as well. This is, Brother Rich, it's a powerful tool used by those whose motives are to affect our psyche without us knowing it.
Affects your critical thinking.
Right. And that speaks to our pathologies. And what media does and what propaganda does to us, what it does to our subconscious, and how we act on those things, thinking we're acting in a normal manner when we're actually acting out abnormalities. And if a brother like you and the Black Ice TV Team 7 brings real truth to the table, those who have been subjected to falsehoods long enough will reject the truth you bring. It's the significance of seeing someone who can't swim, who's drowning in the pool, and you happen to throw them a life preserver, and they get mad for you trying to help them. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the equivalent for someone who's bringing truth. Look, you don't have to take it, but you're dying. You're drowning. You're in a position where you can't help yourself. I'm in the position where I can help you if you let me. But we as a people have been fed the false narrative so long about ourselves that we've grown to believe it. It's like Malcolm said, who taught you to hate yourself? And we hate the reflection in the mirror.
I'm with you.
And when I look at my brother or my sister, for those who are under that spell, if you will, find something to hate about their brother and sister. I don't even have to know you, but I'll find something about you that I don't like. But the first thing we scream is unity. How are you going to unite with me and you trying to find ways to hurt me? Whether it's gossiping about me, We talking this mess about, I mean, all the conscious foolishness. And I'm not talking about the content, I'm talking about the intent. So, Brother Rich, if I'm going to enter into a pact with you, you're not going to unite with me unless you trust me. That seems to me that should be the foundation before we try to unite. If I'm going to come aboard with what you're doing and you're moving forward and your team, we need to build some type of rapport so we can learn who we are as men and what our agenda is and what kind of motives we bring to the table. There has to be a foundation of trust. You can't unite with someone and you don't trust them. Once we get that trust factor down, brother, begin to move forward and start building a structure. And that starts at home. That starts right there in your own neighborhood. What kind of relationship do you have with the barber, with the grocer, with the baker, with the pastor? What kind of example are you setting as the man / or woman in your household that people are looking at? Are you involved in your school projects with your children? Stop talking to me about how concerned you are and what we need to do when you can't even get along with the people in your household. It's going back to marriage. When you treat your husband like he's a walking wallet, or you treat your wife like she is a convenient maid. But you come outside the home contradicting everything you say you stand for. So example, again, morality, examples, standards, values, those things are missing. Those are the things that were present in our parents' time, in our grandparents' time. So you want to talk about the Black community, that doesn't exist.
I think that's a good point that people need to understand. Again, the knock-on effect, because we started talking about the relationship between the man and the woman, but as you just clearly pointed out, the wider connotations go to the bigger community. They go to how you have relationships and how you conduct yourself in the wider community. So when people talk about, we need to create institutions, we need businesses, we need Black economics. If you can't cultivate these relationships in your own household, then when you leave the house and you go into the wider community, you're going to have little to no chance of cultivating those relationships with people, outside that. Now you have money to deal with, you have commitments to fulfill, because as you said, there's no trust.
There's no trust. There's no trust, and there's no, then our priorities as a collective now, as a collective, as a group, our priorities are like a jigsaw puzzle all over the place. And I know, some people get upset with me when I say things like this, but I'm not saying it because I'm trying to beat anyone down. I'm an African man. I am what they call in society a Black man. So when I look in the mirror, I don't hate myself. I don't hate the guy looking back at me. So when I look at you or the rest of the brothers and sisters out there, I don't have hate in my eyes. I have in me a desire to see us come together in my lifetime and do something great with what with our abilities. We're the greatest people on this earth. And look at the condition we're in. Look at who we're letting oppress us. Look at the education. We've been trained to become subordinates. I would encourage those who are watching to read, if you haven't already, Carter G. Woodson's book, Miseducation of the Negro. Now, that was published in 1933, still very relevant right now today. If you haven't read it, read it. And see what's going on. See if that's not relevant to what's going on today. The political climate, the educational climate, the racial climate, all of it is still the same. They just change the language on us, but the actions are still the same. And we think going to church and voting is going to change our narrative. It's going to change our paradigm. It's not. It hasn't. So what that says to me is we got to find another way. And if we don't come together and set aside our petty differences, then it won't change.
No, I'm with you. And again, you spoke to a narrative that was being talked about in the chat room because people was asking about your opinion on whether or not you feel religion plays, a useful part in our liberation, or do we think we can move forward with religion as a part of the mosaic? And from what you said, I'm gathering that you think it's more of a hindrance than not, but speak to that.
Religion is the crack pipe and Christianity is the rock. It has done more to hurt us than to help us. Yesterday I spoke about personal accountability. I used to be in the church. I was looking for something viable. I didn't find it. I left because I think for myself. I can't have some other man who calls himself somebody who's called by God and use a book to try to tell me what I should and shouldn't do with my life, but I don't see it being mirrored in your life or in the lives of others. And to add insult to injury, we're talking about a building that someone took and plastered a denominational sign on it and called it the House of God. Where is it situated? It's situated in the most impoverished areas in the city. You got a liquor store, church, block, liquor store, and another church. And many of those edifices have been sitting there 10, 15, 20 years, and the area is still impoverished. So yes, if in my city alone, there are 400 churches over a 40-mile radius. So that says there are 400 pastors, so-called leaders, men and women of God, 400 now. And in most of those areas are terrible. The blight, the job situation here is the unemployment rate is very high. But we're talking about these anointed men and women of God who talk about the power of their Lord and Savior Jesus. So yes, I'm not a fan of religion. Why? Because it's a racket. You take money, but you don't put nothing back in the community. And the only time we see many of them is when the cameras are rolling. Or when someone has a TV camera or a microphone in their face for radio, or when a politician, like when Barack Obama came here, then you had the pastors come out, but you didn't see them any other time. Donald Trump came here, you had the pastors come out. Why? Motive. But what about the people who are faithful to you and the things that you say and the things that you promise through the word that you teach them? What about the people who are really there and looking for something of substance and something viable? No, we can't have religion because if it was going to change anything, then it would have. How many more years do you need? Prayer ain't never changed nothing. If that was the case, where was the prayed up saints and all these angels when Neil Wilson was attacked on the train in Oakland? When Michael Brown, all these innocent black men and women going about their lives, minding their own business. They're dead. For no other reason than being black that day. But we ready to pray. So for those who in the chat room who are listening, that's how I feel about it. Some of you may not feel that way, but that's my reality. I'm not imagining what I'm saying.
Now, you see what's interesting? As people know who've been watching the channel and they've seen, as I said, Brother Patar, Brother Kaba, they've heard us all speak on African spirituality. They've heard us speak on spirituality in general. So clearly you're coming from that aspect. So again, speak to the difference of what spirituality is as opposed to that religious aspect that is so divisive that you've just talked about.
Yeah, well, from antiquity, we're talking about spirituality from a harmonious place. Spirituality is the balance one finds within themselves. Now, when you start talking about balance, that's just one of the principles of Ma'at. So you're talking about harmony, balance, reciprocity, justice, righteousness. These are all virtues that one must live by from an individual perspective. And if these things are present in your makeup, in your character, in your personality and attitude, then you will treat your brother that way. And you don't need a book to help you understand that. You don't need to go into a building to help you understand that. So the difference from religion, which takes, with spirituality, which provides. I can reach inside myself, and like I do, and pull out the things that I want to happen for myself. It's my creative ability. It's your creative ability. It's the thing. It's the substance that is present in your spirit, brother. That's why it was TV7. And I mean, I don't, I can go off into the into the whole spiritual thing, but the vast difference is. It's a personal journey. It is a coming to knowing of oneself. You have to get to know that brother or that sister in the mirror and know what your tolerance and your intolerances are. It's getting to know you. The African proverb, man, know thyself. Well, that's just not knowing who you are from a reflection. It's from the inside out. So on a spiritual plane, I'm in touch with who I am. My moral compass is in place. My integrity is in place. The righteousness that flows through my body is in place. That's what it means. That's what it means to me. Everyone will have their own, and everyone should have their own perception of what it is. Don't have to do it the way I do it. My meditation time. There's those things that I do to keep myself balanced. The things that I do to go through my life, my everyday existence, and when I come in contact with brothers and sisters, that I treat that man and that woman with respect. Respect myself first. So to kind of bring it all together, religion binds, holds back, prevents. You can't go forward with a religious mindset with the doctrine that has been presented to you and call yourself spiritual. It is, religion takes life from you where spirituality gives you life. What am I saying? We have to shake off this social, psychological straitjacket that we've been wrapped up in for so long and resurrect from our intellectual cemetery and start thinking for ourselves. That's the spiritual plane. When you can make decisions for yourself, when you can ascend with each level of life. Life is about levels, is it not? You're not the same guy you were 10 years ago, brother. None of you who are listening to this are the same person you were 10 years ago. There was ascension, that's spirituality. Religion is going to have you on the hamster wheel of life going nowhere fast, thinking you're making progress, and you're not. Now I may explain it differently from those what you're used to, like Professor Kaba, you know, and his genius, and the rest of the brothers, and hats off to them. This is my reality and my experience, so I can't explain it any other way except from my experience.
No, that's all you can do, and I think again, I think that's what makes the shock metaphysics experience unique, because it has the different facets and aspects of people to make up those different explanations, viewpoints, but all still a black mosaic nonetheless. So I
Right.
think that's, and I wanted to say to you, when you hear the term shock metaphysics, what does that say to you? What if you're, when you're describing that to someone else, how do you describe that when they say shock metaphysics? What's that all about? How does that translate in your head, and what do you say to others?
Oh, it's a whole nother paradigm of thinking. It's a whole nother plane of understanding and spirituality. And with that, and it brings a plethora of angles to the table in terms of personal development. I think there are 15, 16, maybe 17 adepts. Each one brings something different. So when I'm telling people about shock metaphysics, that's what I give them. It's like having a 20-course meal. You can sit down at that table and you have 20 different dishes to choose from. And every dish on there, it has the nutrient you need. Well, that's the shock metaphysics Kemetic wisdom school. Every adept brings something you need, whether it's spiritual, whether it's relational, you got marriage issues or what have you. Well, we have married couples there who are very proficient and in their expertise. Brother Patab with the whole cosmic situation, about time, about where we are in time and our cosmic reality. So you have that as well. Spirituality, Professor James Small. So everyone brings something unique. If you're having psychological issues, well, we have psychiatrists and counselors who can help you begin to see things from a more clarified perspective. Healing. And that's where it has to begin for me, because I can have, and just let me jump over here real quick. We can have all the intellect in the world, man. I have a few people who have master's degrees, and one or two who have PhDs under my tutelage. They're my mentees. Now, with all that Western academia under their belt, they still don't have the answers to their issues, the answers to life, the answers to what they're dealing with. So having all the intellect in the world, having all the education, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you are scarred, you can look the part on the outside, but if you are scarred on the inside, does it really matter? Does it really matter how much education you have? There's something that I'm working on called adversity quotient. AQ.
Okay.
We're familiar with IQ, but how high is your AQ? When life throws challenges at you, do you have the intestinal fortitude to stand flat-footed and deal with that challenge, or are you going to crumble under the weight of the challenge? How high is your AQ? Does your IQ matter when you're faced with adversity? Are you going to fall apart? Because if you fall apart, then you can't make rational decisions. You want to make emotional decisions. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. Again, it's about mental fortitude. It's about heart being light. It's about being able to deal and understand some of the pressures of modern day life and why you're under attack. I think this is what a lot of black people are lacking. They're confused for lack of understanding where these attacks are coming from. We're constantly trying to conform to a society that doesn't accept. And again, we were talking just before off air about here in the UK, we had a major reparations march where we was talking about self-repair and different sides of reparations that go beyond asking for money and understanding what is needed to repair ourselves, what we've lost, where the attacks are coming from, understanding the importance of the family and those things. And a few people in the chat have asked about your opinion on separation, because again, we've got a lot of habits from living amongst white people, from the things that have been introduced to us through slavery, through various times in society beyond slavery, where now we're self-harming. We don't even need a white person in the room to kind of behave in certain ways now, to carry off certain traits. So, when it comes to interracial marriages and dating, what's your opinion on that?
I'm a brother who likes a sister. And it's always going to be the sisters. What the next man does, I can only give you my genuine perspective. And if you already, as you've already seen, I don't bite my tongue. So I can't be involved in a movement, if you will, nor do I want to integrate it.
Awesome. Real talk.
Let's let history be our teacher. Let's look at, there's a documentary for those of you in the chat room. Check out the documentary called Spies of Mississippi. And what that talked about, what the WCC was, the White Citizens Council, and who made up that council. It was made up of KKK members. What did they do? They used people who look like us to infiltrate Malcolm's movement, to infiltrate Martin's movement, and to report information back to them. They did the same thing with Medgar. We very seldom talk about Medgar Evers, but they did the same thing with Medgar. That's how they kept tabs on them. So I am 100% for being segregated, because what we need to be able to get ourselves together. We're too quick to include everybody else in our matters. When other ethnic groups look out for themselves and they ain't thinking about black people, but we're quick to say how racist they are. Well, no, it's common sense. They may be racist, but it's common sense. Common sense says take care of your own first. The Hispanics take care of their own. The Jews take care of their own. The Italians, the Asians, and so on and so forth. We're the only ones who are enamored. Seem like we're just off the charts with inclusionism.
Definitely.
So my position is black first. Let's be black first. Let's understand what that means among ourselves first. Let history teach us what not to do. The handwriting is already on the wall. The blueprint has already been laid out for us. We're just looking in another direction. So, and I'm trying not to get off the subject of the question. So yes, my whole thing is, in moving forward, man, it has to be black. And it has to be black for those who care about one another, not these jokers who, as Dr. Clark said, are professional white ass kissers, honorary Europeans, those with black face and white hearts. And I'm gonna say it like it needs to be said, because I'm not here, not just here, but I don't do what I do to pacify an already pacified people. That's what's wrong with us, because we've been fed these sugary messages, and the first thing we say is how grown we are, but you can't sit still and let someone give you butt naked truth. First thing you want to do is get mad, talk about how grown you are. So what does that have to do with what you just said? It has a lot to do with it. It has a lot to do because we have to be mature enough to hold ourselves accountable about the decisions we make and how we treat each other. As long as we keep treating each other the way we do, the opposition is on the outside looking in, and we make their job that much more easier. So in order to move forward, yes, I want to move forward with it all black. I want to have it all black in the room. I love to live in a community where it's 100% black, at least 99. I want to go into the grocery store and see there's a black owner and a black manager and black checkout and black baggers, and I would like to see that. And there's nothing wrong with that, because if you go into the Jewish community, that's what you're going to see. You go into the European community, that's what you're going to see. They're segregated. They don't want you there. But we'll pull out our cameras and start recording the first time somebody say, "Get your black ass out of my store." We'll get mad because they won't let you spend their money there. Spend your money there. So we have to stop this begging to be a part of something that they don't want you to be a part of. Take your ball and go home.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm passionate about what I do. Some people say think I'm angry. I'm not angry. I'm passionate, brother, about what I do. I'm tired of seeing our people being kicked down by the wayside. I'm tired of seeing us do some of the things we do to ourselves. But I'm also tired of seeing it being done to us. Because there's some good brothers and sisters out there who mean well, who are trying to do well. Those are the ones I want to connect to, like you and your staff. Like some of the people who are in the chat room who are feeling what I'm saying. Like Brother Philippe and those who I've met, the other adepts in the Shock Metaphysics Kemetic School. We need this, man. When the last time we've had camaraderie like this? I mean, really cared about someone. People can say what they want to say about Dr. King, but he was in the trenches. Malcolm X was in the trenches. The sisters of that day were in the trenches with their man, not trying to find ways to extract more money from him. Not trying to find ways to use the children against him and put him in jail. We have bigger fish to fry then and now.
Most definitely.
So if you got a good thing, you better find some kind of way to hang on to it, because it's getting ready to get worse.
And in regards to what you're saying, let's deal with the Pan-African thought. Because again, when we're talking about trying to form a community, when we're trying to form stuff for ourselves, institutions, for me, my opinion is that we need a power base. We need to have a strong economic resource base to strive from. So for me, I believe that there's no way forward unless there is a constant cultivated relationship with Africa, with the people from the continent, with us in the diaspora. So what's your thinking on that? Is that as important to you, or are you of the opinion that we can have all of what we talked about as far as community goes, but separate inside of America, inside of Europe, inside of Great Britain? Like, where do you stand on that?
Brother, I'm all for Sankofa. I want to spend the remainder of my days on African soil. But while I'm still here, I agree with what you said in the opening about an economic base. I can go on about what I think about it, but why reinvent the wheel when it's already been reinvented for us? So we can go back to the work of Dr. Amos Wilson in his book, Blueprint for Black Power. Those of you who haven't read that book, get it. It lays it out there what we need to do. We can also look over to Dr. Claude Anderson's work, Black Labor, White Wealth, where he lays out what's going on behind the scenes. And then his second book, Powernomics, where he lays out the scales that we must take in building that economic floor first. But that starts, brother, again, with trust. We'll give the pastor in the church all our money, but we can't come together. If I can come to your neighborhood and bring 10 brothers and sisters with me, and we have a talk about what we need to do, and we point out a treasurer, somebody who's going to take the minutes. You understand what I'm saying? We're not outmanned, we're out organized. We're not organized. So we have to get organized and start bringing our dollars to the forefront. How do you think Black Wall Street became Black Wall Street? They trusted each other. So, and it's got to start somewhere. Everything has a beginning. So why not in Brother Rich's living room in the UK? Why not in Craig Samuel's living room here in Flint, Michigan, in the US? And we appoint people to certain positions where they are great at. Someone keep the books. Someone be the treasurer. Someone be security. You understand what I'm saying? And we pay dues, whatever you can pay. And put those dues in that treasury and start building up. Pretty soon we have enough money to open up a grocery store, to open up a barbershop. Let's buy a patch of land. Let's go out through like here in Flint, man. There are so many blighted areas where we could go down to the county clerk office and buy up those areas of land for $5. And turn that land over and plant gardens. Now, there are a few who are here doing that. And why did I say that? Because they're killing us through food. They're killing us through the air we breathe. They're killing us through the prison industrial complex. Ain't nothing but modern day slavery. They're killing us through the chemtrails. They're killing us in any way possible that they can think of. So we're going to have to take matters in our own hands and start producing our own food. They're killing us right here in Flint, Michigan with the water we drink. The water is poisoned and has been for the past 4 years. We have to buy water. If there's no other example that I could give, there's the most potent example right there. Our water here right now as I speak is poison. I can't turn on my faucet and wash off my chicken breasts and drop them in the grease. I have to use bottled water. So what am I saying? We have to take matters into our own hands and start doing things for ourselves. And that starts with I'm just repeating myself, setting aside our differences, becoming more responsible with our money. That dollar needs to bounce 15, 16, 17 times before it leaves our community. That's the only way we're going to see change. And then start driving those East Indians out. Start driving the Arabs out. Shut them down.
Real talk.
That's your neighborhood. You repping your neighborhood with your gang signs and all that, but you won't go in there and shut these people down. You'll shoot your brother and take his tennis shoes, but you won't go shut these people down who disrespect you on a regular.
Yes.
So we have to get some intestinal fortitude, some self-respect. And if I respect myself enough, then I can look at my brother and sister and respect them too. I don't have to know you to respect you. And come together, man. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, given our current psychological our mindset today, our current psychological state, because we have a lot of pathologies that we yet have to overcome. And the only way that's going to happen is to recognize and acknowledge that they're there. Admittance. And then take the next step to eradicating those things that impede our progress.
Again, true assessment of oneself has to take place in order to get certain answers. I think that's the key element. And I mean, I want to make reference to Grand Unified Theorem, brother Yibo, who's also been on Shop Metaphysics channel, Philippe Matthews channel. And I think if anybody goes in and looks at that, they'll start to understand that you know, you can have the psychology, the chemistry, the sociology, the biology, the history, yeah, but it has to be put through a process, one of unification of all of those subject matters, but two with honesty of whatever the assessment is. And I think that's the key element for us as a people, that we have to honestly look at ourselves in order to repair ourselves in the best, most efficient way. It can't be done under a false guise. It can't be done under a false narrative. It can't be sugar coated, as you said. There's certain subject matters that you have to just go with what history has shown you. You can't deny what's before your face. Go on, brother. What was you going to say?
Oh, I'm listening to you. I'm, I'm in agreement with what you're saying. Again, change starts with the person in the mirror. I mean, you know, so that's, if we're going to move forward, and I think what the Shock Metaphysics School is doing, that is a major modality that's already in process, in effect. What you're doing in the UK. So those are two examples, and there are several more that I can use. So there are two examples, because you guys there have to be able to work together to make what you do successful. Mm. There has to be trust. Somebody has to watch your back. You got to watch theirs. Your audience loves you. That's why they're tuning in now. Same thing with Philippe and others who are not just doing it for selfish motives, but to send out the clarion call to the masses that we need to do something now. People, is now or never. Tomorrow may not come. Right now is what matters. I talk about it in my book about setting aside your differences. Don't cry now when Big Mama is gone. What does that have to do with what I'm talking about? I'm talking about family. We're talking about, you know, making time for those things that matter. Well, how much does improving your situation matter to you? Ask yourself those questions. What's more important to you? Name brand closets, fat bank account, driving a foreign vehicle, living in a mansion? Those things depreciate. I don't have a problem with having a fat bank account, but if you don't have the character to keep it, you'll be broke before you know it. Mm. It's not about getting it is one thing. Can you keep it? And what are you going to do with it to make a difference for those coming behind you? We have to get over thinking that stuff validates us. That title and position validates us. It does not. If you can't be validated just knowing who you are as a man or a woman, and having a clear conscience, knowing that you put forth your best foot on a daily basis to make a difference, without having to be doctor this or professor that. Now, I don't have a problem with titles and positions. I'm talking about those who get caught up in that and think that that's what makes them who they are, and they're sadly mistaken. Again, ceremony over substance. We have to stop being so ceremonial in things and find some substance. Let that substance be what makes us who we are.
Most definitely. Always has to be a balance.
Always has to be a balance.
Yeah, me. And again, at the moment, I find I'm battling against soulless scholarship, what I call soulless scholarship, which is where you get a lot of people who are studying stuff, but there is no direct impact into their everyday life or behaviors or how they treat people or how they interact with people. And that's what we got to get away from. We have to get back to studying and learning things that directly affect the way we think, the way we deal with problems on an everyday basis, the way we interact with our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way we raise our kids. If there is no practical effect to what we're studying and what we're learning and what we're piecing together about our culture, then frankly, it's a worthless part of the culture. And as we know, looking back in history, the African way is to be practical in nature. It is to give you the metaphysical or spiritual insight into the physical doing, yeah, of the action. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's to give you that both principles, the seen and the unseen. So I think that always has to be prevalent, never forgotten, always kept in the forefront of the mind. There has to be both. If it's one and
Absolutely.
without the other, it falls down. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's our experiences. We should draw our lessons from those experiences, and those lessons should become our wisdom, and that wisdom should give us insight. And that insight, again, should take us. One second here. That insight should take us to our next level. We should continue to ascend with the experiences we have from level to level. How we treat ourselves, how we treat each other, what are the components that are necessary to be implemented uh, from an individual standpoint and from a corporate standpoint. What are those things that are necessary that we need? And so before we can do that, you already said it, the scholarship, the education. I don't have a degree. Some people think I do. I read, I study, I research, and I understand. So those things that I understand, I apply. And with applications comes tangible result. Doesn't always work, but that's where you learn. So I'm in full agreement with you, brother. I think well, you already know what I think, and but I can't say it enough that we have to learn to embrace one another. Yeah, we're all going to have differences, but that's the beauty of it. We can learn from each other's differences. If we're all the same, thinking the same, seeing through the same lenses, having the same perspectives, now to some degree that's okay, because you do need agreement. But we need someone who's on another level. You always need someone who's just a little further up the road than you are. And that's why I listen to the elders. Not because I think they know everything, because they've been some places I haven't, seen some things I haven't seen, experienced some things I haven't experienced. So when I'm in the presence of the elders, I shut up, take notes, apply it if I can. Then I take that to the youngsters who look up to me. Now, of course, as everyone listening knows, this is not for everybody. Everybody doesn't want to ascend and come out of that sunken place. There are people who are complacent in their psychological subjugation. There are some people who are okay with being socially engineered, and that's their prerogative. You just have to know who they are. And they'll let you know who they are when they open their mouths. So for us who are trying to make some things happen, our vision should be twofold, threefold actually. Ahead, down the corridors of time, to the left of me, because I got to make sure these white folks ain't trying to sneak up on me. You see, they're doing things at random. And to the right of me, for the slave catchers who are in collusion with them. So our work is cut out for us.
Most definitely, brother. All right, listen. Let me before we go to your final thoughts and let the people know where to find you, let me just go on to say thank you to the chat room and everybody that supports Black Eyes TV. You know my remit, which is to highlight all positive aspects of the Black community. And again, just like the brother said, show that awareness, show where we have to have a balance of real-time on frontline actions, but it has to be backed up with real-time spiritual, morally guided thought. Yeah, if it isn't, it's just not going to work. It's not going to be sustainable. Yeah, that's the point of these shows with certain elders, to come on and readdress that balance. Because as I said, it's all well and good us having panel shows, debates, discussions. It's great, but sometimes we need affirmations of spirit. Sometimes we need affirmations of action. Yeah, and we can only get that when we quieten down the volume. Yeah, and we start to peel back the layers of what's really important in the Black community. And I think the key element I want people to understand about today's show is it's the family. The family structure is the key. Yeah, if you're not thinking about how you're selecting a partner, if you're not thinking about how you're raising your children, if you're not thinking about these aspects, it's going to be a problem. Yeah, you're already going to be starting off the equation without that right number. So no matter how close you get at the end, it's never going to be the right mark that you need to hit. So for all the listeners out there, that's the part I want you to take in. Again, before we go to you, brother, Riggs, are you there? Okay, let me see if I can get Riggsy back, because we got a 2-day event coming up on the 4th and the 5th. It's a history 2-day event where there'll be tours of museums, there'll be tours of famous Black people, Marcus Garvey, Bob Marley, all sorts of people that's lived within London. It will end at the end of each day with a talk from elders from stateside to England. There'll be music, there'll be stores. So again, look out for that. We will try and share some flyers. You can find it on social media. Look out on Terry Riggs's New Beginning Facebook. Look out for it on the Black Eyes TV page also. That's a 2-day event. Yeah, brother, going back to what you are doing now, just let the people know where they can find you, the products and courses that you do. Yeah. And then we can talk about any final thoughts that you want to leave with the people before we wrap this show up. Because it's been a pleasure having you, brother. And I hope this is the first of many. No, it's definitely.
The pleasure is mine, and I appreciate the invite. And real quick, I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/Craig.Samuels.56. I'm on Twitter, twitter.com/@SamPearl66, @SamPearl66. For those who want to contact me directly, my email is craigsamuels49@gmail.com. My 5-day e-course should be present in the links below. Do you have that link there, brother?
Yeah, that's all in the description.
Okay, all in the description. Yes, my book, the link for that should be in the description as well.
Okay, cool. All right, brother, tell us, what's your final thoughts for the people? What do you want to leave the people with before you leave us and we close?
My final thought is that I believe we should pick up the baton where our ancestors left off. Let's not let what they did be in vain. Let's find a common ground, because it's so necessary. Let's begin to pick up the pieces of ourselves that has been so wickedly shattered, because we can do it. We've done it before, we can do it again. And it's not too late yet if we get started now. But I hate to see what our people did be in vain because we get to a place of complacency and lose our way. Forget what we stand for, and most of all, forget who we are. Let's not do that. Let's not forget who we are. When we recognize and embrace who we are and move forward, we can move forward with the force like nothing has ever been seen before in the history of this world. And that's what my final thought is. Let's stop talking about it and put action behind the things that we desire the most as a people. And that's my final thought, brother.
Most definitely, brother. It's been a pleasure having you. For all those that don't know, this has been a UK-USA link-up show. You know how Black Eyes TV does it, promoting our relationships across the water, promoting working with other Black media outlets, getting this information out, highlighting positives of the community. This has been Craig Samuels looking at the Black community this evening, talking with us. We hope to have our brother on again soon. Again, with the rest of the elders from the shop Metaphysics. Hopefully we should have Philippe Matthews on shortly as well. We've talked. So hopefully he'll be joining us for a show shortly. Brother Carver should be back with us next week. And Brother Patar will be touching base. And we've also got a brother from the Sudan that we were supposed to be doing something with shortly as well. So look out for that, people. Plus, there's a whole bundle of footage to go up from when we came to America for the Sunday TV Awards and from the reparations march yesterday, plus some of our interviews with Professor James Smalls when he came to the UK. So look out for those videos. They're going to slowly and steadily be going up, and check out the information, share the videos, like this video. Everybody has thoroughly enjoyed this chat in the chat room. So thank you for that. Big up to everyone that supported. Big up to the sisters that supported the show, because again, we need more sisters on the show. We've got a strong male presence, but there's never enough sisters. So I want to big up all the sisters that's joined us. You see what time it is? Black Eyes TV 7.
Right. One last thing, man. I like to, you mentioned the sisters. One last thing, you mentioned the sisters. I want to give a shout out to a sister who had me on her radio show 2 days ago, Sister Nicola Hurst. She is one of the adepts at the Kemetic Wisdom School, and I just did her. She just interviewed me on her radio broadcast. So I want to give a shout out to her. Doing big things, great things, dynamic sister. I love her, and hopefully you can have her on your show in the near future.
Most definitely. That's a definite. And we're trying to have Sister Nateri. Her second name goes from my head.
Nelson.
That's all. Yeah. A few other sisters hopefully should be joining us soon. So I'm definitely looking forward to those interactions. But again, this has been a Black Eyes TV production. We may be on again a little later on, so look out for that. We may have another show going on, maybe with our English brother Dean Okai, or we'll be doing another UK-USA link-up show. So look out for that, people. But once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's all, brother. Every time
all
it
right.
was our pleasure. Yeah, take care, people. We will see each other soon. Hotep.
Hotep.